the forbidden oceans. The galaxy had many kinds of worlds spread across countless stars, but none were feared more than the water worlds. To most alien species, the endless oceans were a nightmare without end. The waves rose like mountains. Storms raged across the surface, and the pressure of the deep crushed metal as if it were paper. Predators swam in those waters with teeth longer than blades and eyes that glowed in the dark. Generations of explorers told stories of ships swallowed whole and colonies lost without trace. The Council of Species declared such planets death traps and warned that no sane civilization should ever attempt to live upon them. For centuries, the decree stood unchallenged until the day humans arrived. The new planet was catalogued as Lumeris 9, a world covered almost entirely in blue seas broken only by a chain of jagged islands. Alien observers saw the reports and dismissed it instantly as cursed. Yet when the human fleet surveyed the system, they did not turn away. Instead, they sent a team of explorers equipped not with massive war machines, but with wetsuits, submersibles, and research domes. The decision shocked the galaxy. Why risk lives on a place that promised only drowning and destruction? The aliens whispered that perhaps humans had finally found a boundary they could not cross. Commander Alara Torres led the first landing party. She stood on the deck of the research ship Horizon as it hovered above the waves. The air was heavy with salt, the wind sharp with mist. Most crews from other worlds would not even open the hatch in such weather, but her people were busy preparing equipment. Tanks clinked as they were strapped, masks were checked, fins tightened, and oxygen systems calibrated. Torres looked at her team and saw no fear in their eyes. Instead, there was excitement, the same thrill that had once carried their ancestors across Earth's oceans. In orbit above, a delegation of alien scientists watched the feed with dread. The Keith were a reptilian race who had once tried to colonize a water moon only to lose half their population in a single season. The Tarl with their fragile wings refused even to travel near such planets, and the Saurians, masters of desert trade routes, shook their heads at the madness of humankind. They saw the humans standing on the edge of the unknown sea and expected screams to follow. The first dive began at dawn. The sky was streaked red by the rising sun and the waves glistened like fire. 4 divers entered the water with smooth strokes. At once the alien observers leaned forward in disbelief. The current was strong and the pull of the tide violent, but the humans moved as though the sea welcomed them. They cut through the water with practiced ease, their bodies adjusting, their breathing calm. They were not strangers here. They were children returning to a long-lost home. Beneath the surface, the world revealed itself in colors that dazzled the eyes. Shoals of bright creatures swirled like living rainbows. Forests of coral stretched like towers. Strange shadows moved in the distance, hinting at predators that had frightened entire civilizations. Yet the humans did not turn back. Their cameras recorded every detail, their hands collected samples, and their voices filled the comms with laughter. Where others had seen a death trap, they saw adventure. The alien delegation argued among themselves as the feed continued. The Keth ambassador insisted the humans would not survive past the first hour, once the deep pressure crushed them. The Tarl delegate swore that storms would tear the fragile ship apart before the week was done. Yet the humans continued to dive, mapping caves, tagging sea life, and even racing one another through currents that could have carried away a starship hull. It was not madness, but something else, something unsettling. On the 3rd day, Commander Torres ordered the construction of a small floating station. Modular pods were released onto the sea, locking together with ease. By nightfall, they had an operational lab sitting on the waves, rocking with the tide like a ship of old. Inside, the humans worked tirelessly, studying the ecosystem and planning deeper expeditions. Their energy was boundless, their curiosity endless. Even the predators that prowled near the station did not frighten them. Instead, they prepared for contact with calm determination. News spread across the galaxy faster than light. In countless halls of power, whispers grew louder. The forbidden oceans had claimed many, but now humans swam freely in their embrace. The question was asked in every council chamber and every market square. Were humans reckless fools, or had they once again revealed a strength no one else could match? The answer would come soon enough. For the depths of Lumeris 9 held secrets no explorer had dared face before, and so the first chapter of the human experiment on the death world of oceans began. The aliens who watched could not understand it yet, but they would. For humanity had just entered the waters that terrified the stars, and they were smiling as they swam. The first swim. The ocean of Lumeris 9 stretched out in all directions like an endless plain of shifting glass. Its surface broken only by the sharp ridges of black stone that marked the volcanic islands. For the alien species watching from orbit, the very sight of such vast water was enough to bring memories of loss and disaster, but for the humans, it was a challenge to be embraced. When the second morning came, Commander Elara Torres stood again at the edge of the station's platform and gave the order for a deeper swim. This would not be a simple dive to test equipment, it would be a deliberate descent into the unknown, and every alien observer expected tragedy to follow. The divers entered the sea with smooth motions. Their suits shimmered against the waves as sunlight spilled down in golden shafts. Alien cameras followed them, recording every movement for later study, and across the council stations arguments rose over whether humans were brave or insane. The water closed above the team, and at once they were surrounded by silence broken only by the steady rhythm of their breathing. The current tugged at them with a strength that would have torn alien swimmers apart, yet the humans adjusted their bodies and swam with the flow, turning danger into a guide. As they moved deeper, the light shifted from gold to green and then into the dim blue of the mid-depths. Shapes drifted around them, fish with translucent bodies glowing faintly in the shadows. Strange creatures with long fins darted away at their approach. The humans stretched out their hands in wonder, voices coming through the comms not with fear, but with excitement. One diver, a young scientist named Patel, laughed as a school of bright yellow swimmers spiraled around him before darting off like sparks into the darkness. For him, it was not a place of death, but of beauty. In orbit, alien analysts stared at the feed. They could not understand how humans could remain calm when the pressure outside their suits was already greater than most alien ships could withstand. The Keth representative muttered predictions that the hulls would crack soon, yet the humans continued unharmed. Their technology was strong, but more than that, their bodies seemed to carry an instinct for this place. Even the youngest of them swam with confidence as though they had spent their lives in such waters. The team pressed forward into a canyon that cut deep into the seabed. Towering coral structures rose on either side like the walls of a fortress. Colors shimmered from every surface, reds and purples glowing under the beams of human lamps. Strange polyps reached toward the light, and creatures scuttled along the walls before disappearing into cracks. It was a living city, untouched by any other species, and the humans explored it with reverence. Commander Torres recorded notes, with a steady voice, her tone calm as if this place was no more threatening than a forest trail. Then the shadows moved. At the far end of the canyon, a shape emerged, massive and silent. It glided with slow power, its scales glistening like metal, and its eyes burning with cold light. The aliens watching leaned forward in shock. They knew this was the kind of predator that had ended entire expeditions. The beast's mouth opened, lined with rows of teeth that could shred armored plating, and it turned directly toward the humans. The council delegates muttered prayers for the doomed team, certain the transmission would soon end in blood. But the humans did not panic. Instead, their formation shifted with practiced ease. 2 divers rose upward while 2 dropped lower, creating space between them, and Commander Torres issued calm instructions. Their lights were angled to blind the creature's vision, and small charges were released to create bursts of sound in the water. The predator twisted in confusion, distracted by the noise, and the humans used the moment to swim upward along the canyon wall. With powerful strokes, they surged away, and within minutes the beast had lost sight of them. When they surfaced at the station, their laughter echoed across the comms. They had stared into the face of a nightmare and returned with smiles. For them, it was not terror, but a test passed. To the aliens who watched the display, it was madness, but to humanity, it was only the beginning. Already the scientists were talking about mapping the trench cataloging the species and designing equipment to go deeper still. The story spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Holoscreens replayed the footage of humans swimming beside predators that dwarfed them. Commentators argued, some claiming it was reckless bravado, others whispering that humanity possessed something no other race did. On desert planets and frozen moons, citizens spoke in awe. If humans could survive the oceans, what could they not survive? That night, as the waves rolled gently against the station, Commander Torres looked out across the endless horizon. She felt no fear, only a strange peace. This world was alive in ways most species had never dared to imagine, and her people were ready to embrace it. The ocean was not a death trap. It was a frontier, and the humans had only just begun to swim. The beast of the depths, the days following the first descent into the canyons of Lumeris 9 were filled with restless energy. Humans had already proven they could swim in the currents that crushed alien vessels, and they had faced the sight of a predator and lived to tell the tale. Yet there was more to be done, more depths to uncover, more mysteries hidden beneath the endless sea. Commander Torres gathered her team at dawn and outlined a new mission. They would dive again, not to avoid the predators this time, but to study them, to learn their patterns, and if necessary to confront them directly. The ocean greeted them with a strange calm that morning. The surface was smooth as glass, the rising sun painting it in hues of gold and crimson. As they entered the water, the alien observers once again held their breath. To the council species, every plunge into such depths seemed like suicide, but to the humans, it was a return to a place that felt strangely like home. The descent was slower this time, deliberate and cautious, with sensor drones released to map the terrain. Schools of luminous creatures swirled past them, their bodies glowing in arcs of light, while long tendrils drifted from creatures that clung to unseen walls. The world was alive with motion, and every movement spoke of a rhythm older than any civilization. They reached the canyon floor where the shadows pressed in thick and heavy. It was here that the first attack came. The predator emerged from the gloom without warning, a creature longer than a human submersible, its hide armored in ridged plates, its mouth opening into a cavern lined with teeth as white as ivory. The water vibrated with its roar, though no sound carried through the comms. Alien watchers in orbit recoiled in horror. They had expected such a moment, yet the sheer size of the beast still filled them with dread. The humans did not scatter. Commander Torres gave sharp commands, and the team obeyed instantly. They had trained for such moments, and their movements reflected not panic, but discipline. Two divers angled upward, drawing the beast's gaze, while Torres and Patel circled wide with pulse rifles adapted for underwater use. Bright flashes filled the water as beams of energy struck the predator's armored hide. The creature thrashed, its tail sweeping currents strong enough to knock one diver against the canyon wall. Blood clouded the water where his arm was cut by jagged stone. Yet he pushed off the wall and swam back into position without hesitation. The battle raged in silence, only the steady breathing in the comms and the crackling discharge of human weapons breaking the stillness. The predator lunged, jaws snapping shut inches from Patel's leg, but she twisted away with a burst of her thrusters. Another beam struck its eye, and the beast recoiled in fury. It spun in the water, striking with tail and teeth, but the humans swam together like parts of a single body. They harried it from above and below, their lights flashing, their weapons firing in patterns that confused and enraged it. At last, Torres ordered the release of shock charges. The small devices detonated, in a circle around the predator, stunning it long enough for the team to retreat into a cave system along the canyon wall. They waited there in the gloom as the creature thrashed blindly before retreating into the abyss. Only then did the humans exhale in relief, though their laughter soon followed, filling the comms with the sound of triumph. They had faced one of the deadliest predators of the deep and survived not by luck but by skill and unity. In orbit, the alien delegation sat in stunned silence. None of their species had ever fought such creatures directly. They had always fled, leaving entire missions abandoned when the shadows stirred, yet the humans had stood their ground and driven the beast away. The council's channels erupted with arguments. Some claimed humanity was reckless, courting disaster. Others whispered that perhaps the humans were showing the galaxy a new way to live, a way that did not surrender to fear. Back at the station, the wounded diver was treated swiftly, his injury minor compared to what might have been. The team analyzed their recordings, mapping the predator's movements and cataloging its strengths and weaknesses. For them, it was not the story of a narrow escape, but the beginning of knowledge. The sea was not an enemy but a challenge, and challenges were meant to be met. Commander Torres stood at the viewing deck that evening, watching the waves as the sun dipped below the horizon. She knew that this encounter was only the first of many. The abyss was full of beasts, each larger and more dangerous than the last, but she also knew that humanity would not turn away. In the shadows of the deep, the predators waited, but above them stood a new kind of hunter, one that walked on land yet claimed the sea as its own. The galaxy might still call Lumeris 9 a death world, but to the humans it was becoming something else entirely. It was a proving ground, and with each dive they were proving themselves to be masters of it. Building beneath the waves, the victory over the predator of the canyon gave the humans more than courage, it gave them a sense of belonging. Where the bull? Alien observers expected them to retreat back to their ships and record their findings from afar. The humans instead doubled their efforts. Commander Torres called her team together on the deck of the floating station and spoke with calm conviction. They were not here merely to survive a few dives or prove a point. They were here to live, to carve a home where no other species had, dared, and to build not on the surface but beneath the waves themselves. Plans began at once. Engineers unpacked modular pods that could be connected like pieces of a puzzle. Divers lowered anchor lines into the sea while automated drones scouted for safe places along the seabed. Within days, the first habitat dome was lowered into the water. Its walls were transparent, allowing those inside to look out upon the drifting, shoals and glowing forests of coral. The dome settled on a ridge of stone and sealed itself with a hiss. Lights flickered on and revealed the strange beauty of the deep. For the first time in galactic history, a permanent human station stood beneath the ocean of a world once called uninhabitable. The aliens in orbit could not believe what they were witnessing. The Keth muttered that the walls would collapse under pressure before the week was out. The Saurians insisted that storms above would destroy the supply lines, yet the humans pressed on, moving equipment, setting up laboratories, even beginning gardens of fast-growing sea plants within nutrient frames. Children of Earth had once learned to live in deserts and tundras, on mountaintops and in frozen wastes, and now they were learning to live at the bottom of an alien sea. The divers were not content with domes alone. They mapped networks of caves and lava tubes linking them with cables and beacons. Within these dark tunnels, they found rich beds of minerals and strange life forms. Rather than strip the place bare, the humans documented every detail, testing what could be cultivated and what should remain untouched. They spoke with excitement over the comms as they discovered bioluminescent plants that might serve as natural lighting and creatures that produced enzymes capable of cleaning water faster than any machine. Days stretched into weeks, and the colony grew. Pods linked together to form corridors. Farms bloomed with kelp and algae that could be harvested for food and fuel. Workshop bays were established where damaged equipment was repaired using materials pulled directly from the seabed. The humans adapted quickly to the rhythms of the ocean. Shifts were scheduled around tidal patterns, meals planned with the currents. In mind, rest taken when the storms above shook the waves. Life settled into a pattern that to others might have seemed unbearable, yet to the humans it felt natural. Above, the alien council debated furiously. Should they intervene before the humans drew disaster upon themselves and perhaps upon trade routes connected to the system, or should they wait and watch this strange experiment unfold? Recordings of laughing divers racing through currents were shown in chambers where once the ocean had been spoken of with dread. For the first time, the word death trap was being questioned. Commander Torres walked through the habitat dome one evening, pausing before the wide, transparent wall. Outside, the sea stretched dark and endless, broken by glowing shapes drifting past. Her crew was scattered around her, some eating, others working, others simply staring at the strange beauty outside. There was no fear in their eyes, only determination and a quiet pride. They had turned a place of nightmares into a home, and though challenges waited in the deeper trenches, she felt certain they were ready. Already plans were being drawn for a larger base further into the abyss. Already discussions had begun on how to invite more crews from Earth to join them. The ocean had once been seen as a boundary, but for humanity, it had become a doorway. They were no longer guests upon Lumeris 9. They were settlers, and the sea itself was opening to them. The aliens who watched could not explain it, but the truth was plain to see. Where other civilizations saw only drowning and despair, humans saw life, growth, and possibility. The waters of Lumeris 9 had claimed no victory here. Instead, it was the humans who were rising, building beneath the waves and shaping the future of an ocean world. The storm above, the war below. The colony beneath the waves grew steadily until it was no longer a fragile experiment, but a living community. The humans had planted gardens of kelp that swayed in the currents and raised schools of small fish in protected pens. They had established workshops where pressure suits were repaired, and even crafted new submersibles designed not for survival alone, but for exploration and work. Every day brought new discoveries of minerals, plants, and creatures that might one day reshape industries across the stars. But with every success came envy and fear from those who watched from afar. One evening, the sky above Lumeris 9 darkened, with a storm greater than any yet recorded. Clouds gathered in furious spirals, lightning danced across the heavens, and the winds howled like beasts. The waves rose higher than towers, hammering the floating supply station until even the strongest anchors strained against the pull. Alien observers believed the humans would finally be forced to abandon their project. No ship could land in such weather. No surface structure could stand against such fury. Yet the humans had already prepared. Supplies were moved into the domes beneath the sea, and power was rerouted through cables shielded against the surge. The colony descended into the depths where the storm's rage could not touch them, and there they waited in calm silence while above the sky tore itself apart. It was during this storm that another threat struck, one not born of nature but of jealousy. A rival alien faction that had long feared human expansion sent saboteurs into the system. They believed that the chaos above would cover their actions, that in the confusion they could destroy the colony and prove to the galaxy that no one could master a water world. Small crafts slipped through the storm and released devices meant to breach the habitat domes. In the past, such tactics had ended colonies without effort, but the saboteurs had not counted on humanity's bond with the ocean. Sensors placed along the seabed detected the intruders almost at once. Commander Torres gathered her divers and launched patrols into the dark waters. The storm above created strange currents that carried debris and shadow, but the humans used the confusion to their advantage. Their submersibles darted through the gloom like predators themselves, their lights cutting across the waves to reveal the sabotage drones drifting toward the habitat walls. With practiced skill, the divers dismantled the first wave of devices before they could arm. Explosions echoed faintly in the distance as other drones malfunctioned in the crushing pressure. The saboteurs were not deterred. They unleashed a second wave, this time sending armed raiders in pressure craft designed to fight beneath the waves. Alien mercenaries descended into the abyss with weapons drawn, expecting the humans to cower inside their domes. Instead, they found themselves met by teams of divers moving with impossible speed. Humans used the currents themselves as shields, darting in and out of the raiders' sightlines, striking with spears tipped in energy charges and rifles built to fire in dense water. The fighting was silent but fierce, shadows twisting through, the dark beams of light flashing like lightning beneath the sea. Commander Torres led from the front, guiding her team into the heart of the battle. The storm above churned the waters until visibility was near zero, but the humans did not need perfect sight. They trusted the instincts that had carried their ancestors through oceans long before they ever touched the stars. One by one, the raiders fell back, their crafts damaged, their weapons useless against the relentless hunters who moved as though born of the sea. In the end, the survivors fled into the storm, their mission broken, their pride shattered. When calm returned and the storm began to ease, the human colony remained untouched. The domes still glowed with steady light. The farm still swayed with healthy growth, and the people still carried on their work as though nothing had happened. Word spread quickly through the galaxy, not only of a storm survived, but of a battle, fought and won beneath the waves. To many it seemed impossible that fragile land-born beings could thrive where the sea itself was enemy, yet the humans had turned the storm into a shield, and the ocean into a weapon. The council chambers erupted with debate. Some demanded sanctions, fearful that humanity's victory would inspire others to defy old decrees. Others argued that the lesson was plain, that the galaxy had underestimated these newcomers once again. For the humans themselves, there was no debate. They had proven to themselves and to the stars that storms could not break them and that enemies could not drive them from their new home. The ocean was no longer a trial to be endured. It was now their ally, and in its embrace they had found both safety and strength. The Galactic Council. Watches when the storm cleared and the ocean of Lumeris 9 returned to its quiet sway, the galaxy could no longer dismiss what it had witnessed. Reports spread across every channel of trade and government, telling the story of how humans had not only survived a world declared cursed, but had turned the very fury of its waters into their strength. The saboteurs who had tried to destroy the colony were now prisoners inside the domes. Their defeat replayed in countless hollows across the stars. What had begun as whispers of curiosity was now a roar of debate, and the Council of Species was forced to address the matter openly. In the grand chamber of the council, the delegates gathered, their voices echoing against the high stone walls. Carved centuries earlier when the galaxy's laws were written, the Keth ambassador pounded his clawed fist upon the table, demanding that humanity be stopped before their reckless courage spread chaos to other forbidden worlds. The Tarl delegate fluttered her wings in agitation, insisting that the council's decrees had kept order for millennia and could not be overturned by one young race. Yet there were others who spoke with awe, pointing to the images of humans laughing in waters that had crushed entire fleets. They asked whether perhaps the decrees had been built on fear rather than truth, whether perhaps humanity had revealed something greater about the galaxy itself. Recordings were displayed upon vast screens in the chamber. They showed divers racing through currents, scientists planting gardens of kelp, and warriors fighting raiders beneath the sea with calm discipline. They showed predators larger than ships turned back by human teamwork, and they showed a colony glowing with light beneath the waves. Delegates who had never set foot on a water world watched in silence, their disbelief melting into unease and then into fascination. No matter what they wished to argue, the proof was before them. While the council debated, humanity continued to expand their work. Commander Torres oversaw the construction of a second dome deeper in the canyon, connected by tunnels of reinforced glass that allowed colonists to walk surrounded on all sides by the living ocean. Children played inside these tunnels, their laughter echoing as they watched schools of glowing fish swirl around them. Scientists discovered new compounds in the depths that could purify air and water more efficiently than any known system. Engineers tested turbines driven by tidal forces, generating power endlessly from the rhythm of the sea. Every step forward was recorded and transmitted, and every image reached the council chambers where the arguments only grew louder. The council's high speaker finally addressed the gathering. His voice carried the weight of tradition, yet even he admitted that what humanity had accomplished could not be ignored. He reminded them that the galaxy had once feared the frozen moons until settlers proved them livable, that deserts once thought lifeless now held thriving trade. Perhaps, he suggested, water worlds were not death traps after all, but simply places waiting for the right hands to unlock them. The chamber erupted in divided voices, some shouting in anger, others in support. Meanwhile, the humans remained focused not on politics but on progress. They had begun sending expeditions into the deeper trenches where the darkness was absolute, and the pressure grew beyond anything their first suits had been built to endure. New designs were tested, heavier and stronger, yet still flexible enough to allow swimming. Teams trained in simulated environments, preparing to meet creatures that might make the predator of the canyon look small. Torres herself joined every trial, unwilling to let her people face dangers she had not faced herself. The alien prisoners taken during the raid were brought before the colony council, not punished with cruelty, but treated with unexpected fairness. They were allowed to see the gardens, the laboratories, and the tunnels filled with light. Some of them confessed their disbelief, admitting that they had come expecting to find fear and weakness, but instead had found a people who treated the ocean as kin. Their testimonies, too, reached the Galactic Council, adding fuel to the fire of debate. The name of Lumeris 9 spread farther each day. Merchants spoke of the resources that might soon flow from its seas. Scholars debated the cultural shift that might come from a world once called forbidden, now being seen as a symbol of possibility. In taverns and academies across the stars, the same question was asked. If humans could master the oceans, what limits remained for them at all? And still, the council watched, torn between fear and wonder. Humanity had not asked for permission, had not waited for approval, and yet their defiance had not led to ruin. It had led to triumph. The old laws trembled as the new reality unfolded. Where others had drowned in despair, humans had learned to swim, and the galaxy could do nothing now but witness what came next. Humanity claims the depths, the sun rose over, the waves of Lumeris 9 casting a golden shimmer that danced across the domes and tunnels of the human colony. The oceans had once been feared as traps and tombs, but now they teemed with life and promise under human care. Commander Torres stood atop the highest observation deck, gazing at the horizon where water met sky, and she could feel the heartbeat of a world that had once been labeled impossible. Every expedition had brought back knowledge that reshaped human understanding and challenged the galaxy's assumptions. Children learned to swim before they could walk in some colonies, and scientists developed suits that allowed exploration deeper than any alien had dared. The Galactic Council had convened again, this time sending emissaries personally to witness what humans had done with their own eyes. The chamber of the council was silent as delegates watched live feeds from Lumeris 9 showing humans diving through currents that would crush other species, constructing underwater habitats that glowed like constellations, and mapping territories of the ocean floor as if it were a city waiting to be explored. The Tarl delegate could not hide her astonishment, and even the Keth ambassador, who had been most vocal in warning against humanity, was forced to admit a grudging respect. Across the stars, rumors of humanity's courage and ingenuity spread. Like wildfire, and fear began to mix with admiration in the hearts of many species. Meanwhile, humans had not stopped with survival or engineering. They trained new squads of explorers who would journey into abyssal trenches, where pressure and darkness were absolute. Every mission returned with discoveries beyond imagination. Plants that emitted light without heat, creatures that communicated in pulses of bioluminescence, minerals that could generate energy from currents. Torres herself led a dive deeper than anyone had dared, moving alongside her team with a calm precision that inspired those around her. They discovered a hidden cavern filled with life so alien yet harmonious that it seemed the ocean itself welcomed them. Back on the surface, the prisoners of the failed raid were learning from humans as well. They assisted in experiments and watched in awe as the colonists transformed their fears into innovation. Some of them, who had once sought to destroy humanity, now offered insight into local oceanic predators, becoming unwilling allies in the quest to fully understand Lumeris 9. Humanity treated them fairly and with trust, and in return the prisoners shared information that had eluded humans for decades. Word of this spread across the galaxy, showing not just strength in humans, but wisdom in their approach to life and diplomacy. The council could not ignore the tide of proof any longer. The High Speaker finally stood before the delegates and spoke words that would echo through history. Humanity had not merely survived, but had thrived, turning a world of death into a world of life and learning. Where other species saw danger, humans saw opportunity and turned fear into skill. The council decreed that water worlds could no longer be considered forbidden, and many began to request human guidance in colonization. Torres and her team were celebrated as pioneers not only of Lumeris 9, but of a new era where intelligence, courage, and adaptability defined the measure of a species. On the ocean floor, lights from the colonies shimmered like stars in a deep blue sky. Teams swam through tunnels that connected domes and habitats, discovering new species and laying the foundation for research that would change the galaxy forever. Every human who touched the water felt a sense of unity with the planet, a connection that no council chamber could legislate. Stories were written and shared about bravery and discovery, about turning the impossible into the ordinary and showing that fear was no match for human spirit. And so the humans of Lumeris 9 continued, exploring, learning, and thriving in a place once considered a death trap. The galaxy had watched, it had doubted, and it had learned that humans did not merely survive challenges, they conquered them with ingenuity, courage, and unity. The oceans that had been feared now symbolized human adaptability and resilience. Humans had gone swimming, and in doing so had changed the perception of the galaxy itself. The currents of Lumeris 9 carried the echoes of laughter and adventure, as new generations prepared to dive deeper, to explore further, to turn every fear into another victory. Humanity had claimed the depths, and the galaxy would never again underestimate what humans could achieve. Humanity masters the tides. The oceans of Lumeris 9 stretched endlessly beneath the sky glowing with dawn, and humanity moved through the waters with a grace and power that left even the oldest explorers in awe. Children laughed as they swam, alongside robotic companions that glimmered with lights showing the way to hidden coral cities, while scientists charted currents and mapped underwater mountain ranges that no alien had ever dared to traverse. The galaxy had once whispered that humans could not survive these waters, that predators and pressure would crush them, and storms would scatter them. Yet now every warning was proven wrong, as humans built thriving colonies, under and above the waves, turning fear into mastery and turning challenge into art. Commander Torres led a team of elite divers into the deepest trench, yet discovered a place where darkness was complete, and the pressure threatened to fold machines into themselves, yet humans moved through it like water, itself flowing, bending, adapting, learning from every ripple and shadow. Strange glowing creatures moved around them in patterns that seemed almost like communication, and every discovery added to the growing legend of humans as unstoppable and inventive. The emissaries of the Galactic Council watched remotely, unable to look away, as humans captured images and samples that defied logic and told stories of courage, determination, and brilliance that words alone could never describe. Above the waves, colonies hummed with life, each dome a beacon of ingenuity. Children and adults alike trained in swimming and engineering, learning to read the oceans as if they were books full of knowledge waiting to be understood. Humans taught former enemies how to navigate safely and how to respect the rhythm of the tides, and in return they gained secrets and insights that accelerated their mastery of the world. Every day brought new marvels, towering seaweed forests that shimmered with energy, schools of fish that created living patterns, caverns filled with glowing stones that seemed to hum with power, and humans explored them all with curiosity and joy that inspired legends across star systems. The Galactic Council convened again, this time in person, every delegate filled with wonder and humility as they witnessed humans turning the impossible into reality. They spoke of fear turned to skill, danger turned to discovery, doubt turned to respect, and every word solidified humanity as a species unlike any other. A decree was issued acknowledging human mastery of water worlds and inviting cooperation rather than condemnation, as humans had shown that fear was no match for courage and intelligence. As the sun set on Lumeris 9, the waters glimmered with the light of human habitats, bioluminescent plants and glowing vehicles that moved gracefully beneath the surface. Torres stood on the observation deck, feeling the pulse of a world that had once been feared, and now was celebrated. Her heart swelled with pride as the new generation of humans prepared to dive further, explore deeper, and chart the unknown. Every stroke a testament to ingenuity, every breath a celebration of survival and dominance. The currents carried the laughter, the discoveries, the triumphs, and the legacy of a species that had turned a death trap into a kingdom. Humans had gone swimming, and in doing so had rewritten the rules of the galaxy, showing that no world could stand against their spirit. Their legacy would live in stories, in maps, in colonies, and in the hearts of those who had once doubted them as humans, became the standard of courage, creativity, and unstoppable will. The end.